Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So we're getting some new cards released. We've got 6 to look at today, including 2 new quests. So let's take a look at them now. And the first one is a really interesting card. I'm really interested to play with this card. It's a druid spell called BEEEES. And it costs 3 mana. And it choose a minion, summon 4 1/1 bees that attack it. So initially you look at it and it's kind of like, well, 3 mana, deal 4 damage. It's like a Shadow Bolt in Warlock. It's quite good. Kind of okay, but this card is so flexible. It's got so many different implications, and it can be used in so many different ways when combined with other cards, and I really like this type of card. I think it's really cool. Hopefully there aren't any combos which break the game, and we'll talk about that a bit later, but as it stands, I think this is a really interesting kind of mechanic. So why is it different? It's different because it summons ones that attack. So if the minion dies before all 4 of the 1/1s die, you get to keep a couple of 1/1s, which of course works in druid decks. It won't be able to work with. You won't be able to buff all 4 of them unless you have on-board effects. So you won't be able to buff it with spells. But if you have Raid Leader, for example, all of these bees will have 2 attack. If you have Stormwind Champion, they'll have +1/+1. So you can see some implications of how you can make this work. It doesn't work with the Direwolf Alpha as well, because when you put the Direwolf Alpha down, the bees don't attack individually. They'll all attack and stay on the board, and then the ones that survive, the ones that die will die. So only the first bee will get the buff from the Direwolf Alpha. But still, some pretty cool implications there. So Druid does need this kind of spell, and not just token Druids. I think this could be a good kind of removal spell to go into a lot of different decks. But there's other implications as well, and one of them is that it says choose a minion. This means you can target your own minions. So if your minions have any effects that happen when they're damaged, then you could use this on that to get that benefit. And one is Overkill. So Overkill triggers on your turn. So if you've got an Overkill minion on the board that you played the previous turn, or the same turn, and then you play bees on that minion, you can trigger the Overkill. So Undasta is a good example here. So you play the bees on your Undasta, and Undasta's Overkill effect summons more bees from your hand. Now that would only summon, I think, 2 bees from your hand, because bees do stay on the board until the end of the animation, even if they die. So I don't think you'd be able to summon 4 beasts, but it's a good example. And one which I kind of hope doesn't work is with Linecracker. And this is a card that is a 5 attack, 10 health minion for 7 mana. That has Overkill doubled this minion's attack. So if you've got that on the board that you played the previous turn and it survived, which it could very easily do with 10 health, then you play bees on it, you can give that minion 80 attack, because it doubles each time it overkills. So I can't imagine that combo works that way. It feels like it does. It seems the way the cards are written, it does. So we'll see. Maybe that combo won't be as OP as I think. But that's an OTK combo for 10 mana. If your opponent doesn't play a taunt and they don't clear your Linecracker. So it's not easy, but seems a little bit too easy. But this is a really cool card. I like the design, and I think it's going to be played by Druid quite a lot, actually. Next up, we have the Mage quest. This one is represented by Reno. It's called Raid the Sky Temple. So 1 mana, like all the quests. All you have to do is cast 10 spells, which in current mages, that's quite easy. If you look at the Mana Cyclone Mage, they play loads of different spells. They generate more spells from the Mana Cyclone. You've got twin spells such as Ray of Frost, which can contribute really easily to this kind of thing. And then the reward is Ascendant Scroll. This, like the others, is a hero power. It costs 2 mana. And then you generate a random mage spell, and it costs 2 less. So effectively, you're paying 2 mana to get a 2 mana cheaper spell, which is random. So you get basically the hero power for free, but it kind of doesn't work like that because it's a random mage spell. So if you don't play it that turn, then you're expending 2 mana of your turn just to try and get a random spell. There are a lot of lower cost mage spells, and if you got it on a twin spell, for example, the discount will only apply to the first twin spell that you play. So there's a lot of weird kind of options for this, and really it kind of fits into like a infinite value sort of mage, because you're constantly being able to generate spells, but you can only generate 1 per turn, and there's no guarantee it will give you a spell that you want to play that turn. Also, the other problem with this is that Mana Cyclone Mage that I mentioned before already generates so many spells, so there isn't really a need to do this unless you want to get into the late game and try and survive against your opponent. But if you're trying to do that, you probably don't want to do it with Mage because of Dr. Boom and Hagatha. those two cards work much better than this card. So while those two hero cards are in the game, you're always going to see Warrior and Shaman go for these long-term kind of control decks. Whereas Mage, if you try to go head-to-head with one of those, then I just don't see this one, without any kind of additional cards being added in, I don't see this one being able to compete with those in the meta. So you want to try and kill them early rather than keep going. But it's not a very hard quest to complete for Mage. So you have the downside of having to lose your turn 1, which is a pretty big downside, or can be in some decks. And it is a nice benefit for later on, but I just don't see that deck at the moment. Maybe when the meta shifts or we see more cards going into Mage, this would be good. But it's not as infinite value as some of the cards like Dr. Boom is better, and so is Hagatha. And maybe it's good that this isn't better because we don't want too powerful hero cards in the deck, too big powerful quests, because we've seen what problems that causes in the game. But an interesting quest. But where this quest I think is better, this is the Shaman quest. This one's called Corrupt the Waters, and it costs 1 mana as well. Quest plays 6 Battlecry cards, which again isn't very hard when you consider lackeys are in the game. Reward Heart of Vernal, which the reward is a hero power which costs 2 mana, and when you play it, all of your Battlecries that turn will trigger twice. So we know from the Dalaran Heist and all the other single player options, double Battlecries are really good. You can get so many good double Battlecry effects. If you look at any of the Battlecries in the games, trigger it twice, and you're kind of looking at all these options that go around in your head. Obviously, Shudderwock is one. Shudderwock costs 9, the hero power costs 2, so you won't be able to play them on the same turn unless you've got a coin. But Geppetto Joybuzz summons 2/1/1, so maybe if you double Battlecry that, you could get 4 1/1 minions, maybe one of them is Shudderwock, and then you're away. Also, there's Farsight and cards which you can just discount Shudderwock with as well. So maybe that's possible, not very often. But this is really kind of setting up for a good Lackey Shaman deck. So Lackeys weren't really played too much in Shaman during this expansion, but if you look at how powerful Rogue is, Rogue almost wins games by playing multiple Lackeys. Like, they need a bit of a deck around it, but Lackey Rogue really does just constantly play Lackeys and just get lots of benefits from it. So if you can do that and you get double Battle Cries on them, there's so much value you can have. So we already saw the Totem for Shaman, which generates Lackeys at the end of the turn. So that's one good way to get Lackeys. Sludge Slurper is already a really good card actually in Shaman, the 1 mana 2/1 Murloc that generates a Lackey. So yeah, I think if you can generate enough Lackeys, I'm not convinced on the Totem right now, but if you can, then a Lackey Shaman can be good. And if not, there are so many good Battle Cries you could put to work with this. So even though you have to spend 2 mana first to get the effect, I think it's a really good one. And this is probably the best quest we've seen so far. I hope it doesn't become too oppressive, but it's a fun one for sure. I should also say that they are adding 1 more Lackey to the Lackey pool for this expansion. They haven't said what it will be, but it has to be really terrible, I think, for you not to want to play Lackeys, because the 4 at the moment have proven to be very strong. So I think Lackeys will continue to be good in this new expansion. So if you can make it work in Shaman, this is one way I think it will work. Next, speaking of Lackey Shaman, is Weaponized Wasp, and this is a very strong card as well in the right deck. It's a 3 mana 3/3 beast which has the battle cry: if you control a Lackey, deal 3 damage. Now, 3 mana 3/3 on its own with an effect is good, but the battle cry of dealing 3 damage is very strong. If you can play this on turn 3, which you potentially could do if you played a Lackey on turn 2 off your Sludge Slurper, then it really helps you to gather the board because you can just kill your opponent's 2-drop. If you can play it on turn 4 with a Lackey and the Weaponized Wasp, then you'll be killing your opponent's 3-drop, and it's just good. It's very strong. If you've already completed the quest and you've done your hero power, this is a 3 mana 3/3 that deals 6 damage. So yeah, I think this is a very strong card that would go into a Lackey deck. Obviously, it's not going to be played in a Shaman deck that doesn't want to run Lackeys though. A 3 mana 3/3 beast. The beast doesn't have any synergies in Shaman, so it's just going to be in a Lackey Shaman. So like I said before, if Shaman doesn't have problems generating Lackeys, because Lackey Rogue works so well because of all the ways they could bounce the Lackeys back to their hand. Shaman doesn't have this, so it needs to kind of generate them through this new totem that generates Lackeys. So I don't know. If Lucky Shaman works, this is a very, very good card. Next, we have another Shaman good card. This one's called Earthquake. It's a 7 mana board clear, basically, and it's very interesting because it deals 5 damage to all minions. Then it does deal 2 damage to all minions. So it effectively does 7 damage to all minions. But the benefit of having it do 5, then 2, is if you kill a Death Rattle with the 5, any minion summoned from that Death Rattle will then be killed by the following effect, which is deal 2 damage. So we're looking at Token Druid, basically. Lots of other Death Rattles too, but Token Druid mainly. If they put Soul of the Forest on their board, you can deal 5 damage, summon their treants, then deal 2 damage and destroy all the treants. So it's a very good effect, and if there are no Death Rattles on the board, you just deal 7 damage to everything. It does harm your own minions, so that's a downside, but Shaman doesn't really have a problem with that. They've already got cards, Hagatha's Scheme, for example, which was a very important card. And probably won't get replaced by this, but I think a Control Shaman would definitely want to run this alongside a Hagatha's Scheme, because even though it's expensive, it's a very good board clear. When you compare it to a Flame Strike, that's 7 mana, deal 4 damage to everything. This is 7 mana, deal 7, with obvious downsides and upsides to a Flame Strike. So I like this a lot. In a Control Shaman deck, yes, I think this would be very good. And as with all Shaman spells, they're just going to get generated randomly off of Hagatha. And when you generate a Hagatha's Scheme, it's not as good because you do have to hold it for a number of turns. But if you've already played Hagatha and you generate this, it's just an instant board clear if you need one. So, really good Shaman card. I don't see too many downsides to this. Next is a card that I think does have some downsides, and that is Imp Balming. Despite the cool name, it's a 4 mana spell. Now, I will preface this by saying, as of the game right now, I don't think this card's very good. Maybe we'll see some synergy cards to go with this. But what it does is destroy a minion. So 4 mana, destroy a minion's good. Walk the Plank in Rogue is a very strong card. Assassinate in Rogue as well is also 5 mana. Siphon Soul in a Warlock is 6 mana, and you get the healing from it. But what this does is shuffle 3 worthless imps into your deck. Now, the problem with that is the worthless imps are the 1 mana 1/1 minions. So it's a big downside to shuffle 3 top decks, 1/1 top decks into your deck. But 4 mana to clear any minion is pretty decent. So it does have some trade-offs, but I'm a little bit worried about playing this, especially if you play 2 of them. If you're playing Zoolock, potentially this could be a good option to get rid of a big taunt, because if you gain a 1/1, well, it's just another token for you to put on the board. That maybe you could Grim Rally or something like that. So it does have some synergies, but I think where this has more synergies is making your deck bigger. So it puts 3 minions in, 3 cards into your deck. If you then played Archmage for farm, they will turn into random legendaries. So it's almost like an Elysiana. If you could play 2 of these in your last couple of, while you've only got a couple of cards left in your deck, and then you play Refarm, you're kind of making your deck bigger with stronger legendaries. So that is one way you could use it. Also, maybe if you're playing a Hakar deck, it dilutes your deck a bit so you don't draw the bloods, but I don't see that as being a good one either, because, you know, would you rather top deck a good card and take 3 damage from a blood, or just top deck a 1/1? I'm not so sure. So yeah, I think it's quite interesting, but for me, if you're playing a Control Warlock deck, Plot Twist Warlock, that kind of thing, I don't think you want to be shuffling bad top decks in, because Plot Twist can get rid of these if you put them in your hand, because you play Plot Twist and put them back. But the 1/1s will ruin your Betrug combos, they'll ruin your Master Dorian combos. So yeah, for me, not the best card, unless we see some other synergies that go with it. So that's all the cards we've got for today. Some pretty interesting ones. BEEEES, I think, is a really well designed card. I think that will be fun to play with. The quests are always cool to see. I'm glad they're not too powerful. I'm a little bit worried that maybe they'll come into the game and just not be game changing enough, so nobody will play them. I think the Shaman one will, but maybe the others not so much. But we'll see. We've still got a lot of cards to be revealed, so maybe we'll see some more synergies that go with those. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about these cards, and I'll see you in the next video.